My dear people of Southern Cameroons, I bring you revolutionary greetings this Friday, the 14th of December in the year of our Lord 2018. I'm sure all of us listened to and read a decision, I should call it a decree, but since it was transmitted by the Secretary General at the Presidency of the Republic in La République du Cameroon, I even don't want to call it a decree, but it was a decision indicating the willingness of Paul Biya's regime to release some 289 detainees, mainly young people they captured in the Southern Cameroons and held in various detention centers within the framework of the struggle of our people for total freedom of our land. When you listen to that decision, or you read the details of it, and then you look at the annexure, which is an explanatory note by the minister delegate at the presidency of the Republic of La République du Cameroon in charge of the defense, Joseph Biya, you understand clearly that it is yet another prank. But all the same, we welcome the release of each and every Southern Cameroonian at every point in time, because in the first place, they were never supposed to be in the dungeons for rising up simply to ask for what they deserve, to ask for freedom, to ask for better living conditions, to ask that their country be considered as a country, and to ask that they be considered as human beings. They didn't deserve the treatment that they have received this far. But again, when you look at the wordings, you understand that Mr. Paul Biya is reporting himself, reporting his government to the world, that he has held thousands of Southern Cameroonians on simple misdemeanors and have had them for all this while to be tried in military courts around the country. This is strange, very strange, that simple offenses like misdemeanors result to people being taken before the military tribunal. If there was any proof again that the world required to know that we have been dealing with an insane system since 1961, then this additional one is so eloquent and speaks for itself. I think this decision, which is yet another opportunity Mr. Paul Biya has taken to mock not only at those who still believe that anything good can come out of him, but to mock at the international community that has been calling for meaningful dialogue, that has been calling for clear-cut negotiations, and that has been calling for a thorough examination of the root causes of the ongoing conflict. This is a clear mockery to all those efforts. I like, therefore, to use this opportunity to remind all and sundry that any measure taken which doesn't result to the unconditional release of all Southern Cameroonians, I mean all, detained wherever, is simply cosmetic. Because some have been quick to say, oh, but why didn't you just release, first of all, the leaders of this revolution that's talking about the Naira 10, or why haven't you made sure that Mancho Bibixi, Pen Terence, and all of those other people, Mr. Ndango or Manasata, and all of those are there? All Southern Cameroonians are equal. All Southern Cameroonians' lives matter. And each and every one of them is so important in our view, even those who are considered by Yaoundé to be mad, to be insane. I'm not saying this to negate the preponderant role of our leaders, but I'm saying this to indicate that even at the start of this revolution, I recall that discussions were stalled between the consortium and the government ministers in Bamenda when Patasang, Dr. Neba Fontem, Agbo Balang Kongo, and others said there will be no progress in discussions until all those that were arrested on November 21 because they went out with Mancho Bibixi and others to protests on the poor state of roads in Bamenda were released. And so right from that moment, we have increasingly requested the release of all our detainees. But what Yaoundé has done is, while today they decree the release of 28, they arrest 300. When they decree the release of 59, they arrest 500. Today that they are decreeing the release of 289, even at this minute that I'm talking, they are busy arresting others. They are busy burning down villages. They are busy killing people. They are busy looting. They are busy raping. I wonder what we have really come to. My dear people of Southern Cameroons, I want us to collectively, at this point in time, remind the world, because I have listened, just as a good lot of you, to the submissions made by the permanent representative of the United Kingdom to the UN in New York, the submissions he made at the Security Council. I've listened to the submissions of the deputy representative of the United States of America at the UN Security Council. We have listened to a lot of world leaders talk about the situation in Southern Cameroons. But one common denominator of a lot of the things that they have said has been to call sometimes on some kind of decentralization as an approach to resolving this problem. Too often we have heard them talk about some kind of just in-depth dialogue and power-sharing approach as a way of resolving this dialogue. Inasmuch, as I like to say, we just sometimes still need to be patient with the diplomatic community, it is also important for us to generally remind them of what the exact situation is. At the start of this struggle, I listened to Mr. Mo Ibrahim talk on the CNN. That was way back in 2016. Mr. Mo Ibrahim, who had taken time to study the situation in Cameroon very clearly, made an unambiguous declaration that the only way to solve the problem in Cameroon was to ensure a two-state solution, was to ensure that La République du Cameroun goes its way and the Southern Cameroons goes its own way. That way, you are convinced that you're going to have permanent peace. This is why that is the best solution. 1. La République du Cameroun, from successive regimes beginning with Ahidjo through Paul Biya's numerous presidencies, have demonstrated that they are not a lot you can ever trust. They have demonstrated that they can never, ever respect any engagement. And they have demonstrated that sincerity can never be part of their modus operandi. I say this because a closer look at what transpired between 1961 to 1984, where we went from La République du Cameroun through the Federal Republic of Cameroon, the United Republic of Cameroon, to end back with La République du Cameroun is quite telling. And then since then, we have witnessed a situation where Southern Cameroonians have at least got up en masse in huge numbers to decry their plight publicly. That happened with the 1993 All Anglophone Conference 1. After the All Anglophone Conference 1, the government pretended as if it had paid heed and was ready to do something. They called a tripartite conference in Yaoundé. During that tripartite conference, all what our people saw was lack of sincerity. All what our people saw was clearly an attempt by Yaoundé to enforce a serious division between the Northwest and the Southwest as a way of maintaining us in bondage. And we all recall that during that conference, Mr. Joseph Owona made clear that if the people of Southern Cameroon continue to insist that we should return to the two-state federation as existed in 1961, then the Beti people, he was referring to the center-southeast, will cut off and form a Beti republic. That is how talks start. It resulted to the people of Southern Cameroons going back now to hold an AAC2, at which they put in place the Southern Cameroons National Council, the SCNC. And the Bamenda declarations was a clear indication that the people of Southern Cameroons were still determined to continue being patient. That is why they decided to give a reasonable time frame within which, if nothing were done, then the SCNC will go ahead and proclaim the independence of the Southern Cameroons. From that moment to date, we have only seen, I insist, we have only seen Mr. Paul Biya move from one game to the other. I want to take the international community to total witness here, to see the circumstances that Mr. Paul Biya has deliberately demonstrated that he is not a man who likes peace, demonstrated that he is not a man who believes that the people of Southern Cameroons are humans and deserve to be treated as such. I take us just to very recent events so that we don't go too far. When this struggle was ignited, this phase of the struggle was ignited by the consortium in 2016, the international community started calling on Mr. Paul Biya and others to ensure that there should be a thorough dialogue to resolve the situation by examining the root causes of the crisis that has been recurrent. The teachers, the lawyers, and the entire community of Southern Cameroons constituted themselves into the Cameroon Anglophone Civil Society Consortium and went into dialogue. But while this dialogue was going on, and while people were expecting that at the end of the day, this government was going to do what is right in the eyes of everyone to ensure total and positive peace, what happened? While discussions were going on, the government pretended to make concessions that have mainly remained on paper to date, but hurriedly went ahead to start a crackdown, captured the same people they were discussing with, I beg your pardon, detained them, started shooting and killing, and our people of Southern Cameroons continued to protest peacefully and seeking at that time just the release of those arrested so that we could return to the dialogue table. On the contrary, Mr. Paul Biya continued to move to ever higher and higher levels of cruelty until the 30th of November, where he officially declared war on the people of Southern Cameroons. From that moment, the international community pressed on. Mr. Paul Biya's response was to create a bilingualism and multiculturalism commission and to deceive the world that it was actually meant to solve the problems of Southern Cameroonians. He appointed one of his friends, Peter Mafane Musonge, who is no different from the oppressor, to lead that commission. But when you look at the text creating that commission, you realize that it was a toothless bulldog meant only to create diversion. And of course, we all saw that the same person meant to lead that commission proved beyond reasonable doubts that he was not only the inappropriate person, but that he was a xenophobe of the highest order. That commission is ranged. It has resulted to nothing. The international community continued pressing on. Mr. Paul Biya pretended as if he was yielding and decided that he was discontinuing proceedings against the people who were illegally captured from various ends and detained in several centers around La République du Yaoundé and were being charged before the military tribunal for acts including terrorism and secession. But then, they only ended up releasing Agbobala, releasing Dr. Fontem Neba, and a few others, abandoning in the prison dungeons Mancho Bibixi, Pen Terence, Mr. Ndango Patrick, and a good lot of others who only got up peacefully to seek a solution to the problems plaguing their people. It didn't end there. When the world continued to ask Mr. Paul Biya to go back and examine the root causes of the problem, he responded each time by dispatching delegations of his cohorts, of those he has brainwashed over the years, to the two Southern Cameroons regions to go there and attempt rather at corrupting the people. At meeting after meeting, the people claimed denial. The people tried to portray that there were only a few Southern Cameroonians resident abroad that are the problem. But over time, nothing has changed. Mr. Paul Biya got up again to deceive the world that he was about to start paying some heed, to start paying some attention to the hundreds of thousands of Southern Cameroonians who are hiding in the forest, with other hundreds of thousands who have moved to neighboring countries for safety. He created yet another commission meant to provide assistance to the people of Southern Cameroons. But that commission, in effect, was meant to raise campaign money to ensure his re-election. Because to date, we are no longer hearing anything being done by the said commission that was put in place to bring necessary assistance to the people. That was yet another diversion. Today, we have observed that with continuous calls on Mr. Paul Biya to do right, the Southern Cameroons leaders who were illegally captured in Nigeria and deported against international law to La République du Cameroun, to date, are still in dungeons. We are seeing them being tried before military courts in total mockery of what international norms require. As if that is not enough, Mr. Paul Biya gets up again and creates a DDR commission, disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration. Yet another mockery to the world. And within the framework of that organization, what does he do? He appoints mainly his CPDM cohorts. Oh, really? You want to begin disarmament without talks, without looking at the root causes of the problem. And today, he gets up, wants to deceive the world again, that he is releasing people whom he captured within the framework of this struggle as a way of facilitating peace talks. I think the world should therefore notice, on all these counts, that it is impossible to let these two peoples stay together. I think the foundation of living together is mutual trust, mutual love, and at least a willingness to be sincere towards one another. But from all indications, what is reigning between the people of the Southern Cameroons and La République du Cameroun today is mutual distrust, mutual suspicion. I hate to use the word mutual hate, because the mutual hate here will refer more to the system. But unfortunately, it is being translated by that same system to almost mean mutual hate between the two peoples. My dear people of Southern Cameroons, my dear people of Ambazonia, I like therefore that in our permanent quest daily, we should remind the people of the international community that the least that can happen today is that, one, ensure that Mr. Paul Biya and all his troops withdraw into La République du Cameroun, leave our territory. Because Mr. Paul Biya and some in the international community continue to be in doubt of the fact that our people overwhelmingly want to leave this ill-fated union, we are very open to a referendum. But we will never, I want to hurry to add this, accept to be part of any referendum in which La République du Cameroun is involved in whatever way. Because in 1961, La République du Cameroun was not involved in the organization of the referendum in the Southern Cameroons, neither as a member of the organizing committee, nor even as an observer. We therefore expect that as the various organizations stomping for the freedom of the people of the Southern Cameroons work out modalities of any such referendum in the future, we will be able to explain clearly that the laws of La République du Cameroun should never ever be referred to in the preparation of such a referendum. I like us to keep making this clear, because the mistakes that the world made in 1961 by bunching us together with the people they themselves understood were so different from us in culture and in attitudes is about to be repeated. If anything were to be done today to force the people of Southern Cameroons again in any kind of arrangement with La République du Cameroun, it will still be doing what the former United States ambassador to the United Nations stated, Zablosky, that it was a mistake that would cost lives. It was a mistake that were seeds of future strife. So any such attempt again now will simply be postponing the crisis that is going on now, will simply be ensuring that the thousands of Southern Cameroonians who are dying today will still see future generations of Southern Cameroonians die for the same cause that could be resolved now, once and for all. A friend wrote to me and made a joke just when I was about to do this recording and said, Mr. Akuro, tell our people, remind them about this, that when you are making a mockery of kids who believe in Santa Claus as their Father Christmas, let them think of adults who believe in Paul Biya, because they are pretty much the same. To God be the glory.